Welcome to all. I'd like to tell my relationship story today. In public, my wife had been portraying herself as so saintly and pious, but what she had been doing behind my back was so vile. I married a woman I met at a library 2 years ago. She has excellent public speaking abilities and could persuade you to think of her as the most devout woman. People have described her as a woman of character and grace and dignity. She was an English teacher at a nearby school, and her manners were impeccable. I was amazed by her elegance and the way she carried herself. My wife and I shared the same interests. We both enjoyed reading and visiting libraries, which is how we met and fell in love. I work as a journalist and have to work at unusual hours. My profession needs me to be present anytime we have to work on some report or case, since my job as a journalist requires me to be present anytime we work on a report or case. I frequently had to stay the night at work. However, because my wife was a teacher, she had a more flexible work schedule and returned home much earlier than I did. It wasn't that I didn't give her time. On the contrary, I did my best to spend as much time as I could with her. I had to stop going out with my friends so that I could spend more time with my wife. On the other hand, my wife had a lot of friends whom she frequently visited and whom she invited over to our house when she got lonely while I was away. So I was content knowing she had the company of her friends. We prepared a big celebration for her friends and our families, since she said she wanted to spend her birthday with her friends and our families at that party. There was one man who was obviously drunk, dancing, and laughing loudly. When my wife introduced us, she identified him as Eric, an old friend from her college. There were other friends from my wife's college who all knew Eric and were having a good time with him. Eric was a fun-loving person, and everyone was enjoying his company. When my wife introduced Eric to me, he gave me a tight hug, and Eric gave my wife an expensive camera, which she loved. At the conclusion of the party, Eric and several of my wife's friends were so drunk that they had to stay the night at our house, which gave me the opportunity to bond with my wife's friends. And I truly enjoyed their company. I didn't anticipate her friends to be as much fun because my wife is a teacher and a literature fanatic, so I was expecting them to be nerds. A few days later, when sitting in my office with a coworker, he told me how much he admired me for my open-mindedness and modernism. I was puzzled and asked him what he was referring to when he said that he thought I was modern. He said it because I had permitted my wife to join OnlyFans clubs and other online streaming services. I was shocked because I had never permitted her. In fact, I was unaware of it, and my wife had never even brought it up to me. When I got home that day, I confronted my wife about it. She was astonished by my question and responded that she was only on streaming websites for money. She didn't have OnlyFans, and that my co-workers had some sort of misunderstanding. Possibly because it was someone who looked like me. I had no idea what streaming website was, so she explained that it was similar to social media in that all you had to do was log on. And people would send you gifts and money to talk to them. Because I was unfamiliar with technologies and various websites and apps, I believed her explanation and concluded that it was not a big deal because everyone uses social media. I thought that my coworker was just being irritated and cautious. I became preoccupied with my job since I was working on an important article, and as a result, I completely forgot about the streaming website, OnlyFans, or whatever my coworker had said about my wife. I didn't even attempt to look it up online because I was so caught up in my work. After 1 week of hard work, I finally submitted my article. And as I was relaxing at my desk with a cup of tea in the evening, The same colleague who had told me about my wife's appearance on OnlyFans came over to join me. That reminded me of his comments about my wife. So I brought up the subject again and informed him that my wife only used streaming websites which were more like social media and that she wasn't on OnlyFans app. My coworker laughed at my statement and told me I was being foolish if I thought streaming services were similar to social networking. He then showed me my wife's account on OnlyFans, and I was horrified to see the obscene photographs of her there wearing nothing. I was shivering with rage because, while some men with no honor might want to let their ladies be on OnlyFans, I was not that type of man. Instead, I maintain certain boundaries and demand the same of my partner. I also don't like other men to watch my wife in that way. I was so disgusted when my coworker told me about the streaming website and how some girls use it to engage in various immoral acts. I couldn't believe my devout and clever wife was involved in such heinous acts. She was a teacher, and she was the type of woman who talked about loyalty and grace. It was difficult for me to comprehend what my colleague was saying about my wife. I excused myself and left the office well before my usual hour because I was feeling terrible. I wanted to scream. And I wanted to go home and tell my wife how disappointed I was in her. So I left my workplace early and rushed home. I was unsure of what to do next as I was driving home in my car. When I arrived home, I used my own key to go inside, and when I entered our living room, I was shocked to see my wife with Eric. They were deeply engaged in the act on our living room sofa. Music was blasting in the room, so they didn't notice my presence, and I was surprised to see a camera there. They were filming it. So I rushed towards the camera and grabbed it before they could see me. They were astonished to see me there. My wife's face was pale with shock, and she covered her body with a pillow. I discovered many recordings of them on that camera. They were shooting their acts, which were similar to adult movies. Their filthy videos made me feel disgusting. I became enraged at them. I then began beating Eric, who was begging with me and telling me it was for business. I then threw him out of my house and threatened to call the police if he came anywhere near it again. After kicking Eric out of my house, I entered the house to find my wife crying and wearing a t-shirt. I yelled at her, asking what she thought she was doing and how dared she cheat on me and humiliated me in such a way. She remained silent for 5 minutes before declaring that it was solely for her followers and streaming services, that she had no intention of cheating, and that her only goal was to generate money by selling those movies. She told me that everyone engages in this activity and that I should be calm. I slapped a woman for the first time in my life because she didn't express regret or embarrassment, instead assuring me that it was normal. I informed her that she was a fraud who appeared to be modest in order to win people's respect while actually being a tasteless woman. She started crying when she realized that I was angry with her and pleaded with me to keep whatever I observed her doing a secret in order to protect her image. She claimed that since the majority of people didn't have access to these dark websites, no one was aware of her business and she wanted to keep the truth hidden. I urged her to stop her deception and throw her out of my home, but she continued to send me letters and emails pleading for my forgiveness, requesting a second chance, and swearing she wouldn't commit the same crime again. But how could I ever trust this disgusting woman again? She was terrified that if I uncovered her secret, she would be fired and have her reputation damaged because she was being fake in front of her friends and family, and people who fake their personalities fear the truth is revealed the most. I was furious. I'm a reasonable guy, and if some innocent person asked me to keep something private about something reasonable, I would do it, but my wife was engaging in immoral behavior behind my back. She was only concerned with her reputation and fake image after being discovered, which infuriated me. I couldn't stand her nonsense any longer and kicked her out of my home. I smoked and drank coffee to calm myself down. And then I made the decision to expose my wife before she could deceive anyone else. I had kept their camera, and because I had sufficient evidence of her character defects and infidelity. I downloaded those offensive recordings to my laptop and emailed them to her school administration, and arranged for a lawyer to send her divorce papers. Update: I revealed my wife's actions to her school, friends, and family, and filed for divorce. I didn't have to pay alimony because I had enough evidence to show her infidelity before the courts. Her school fired her. And they had also cancelled her teaching license and declared her unsuitable to teach. Her friends were astonished to find the evidence of her infidelity. No one could believe that their pious friend was engaging in inappropriate acts. Her family is a conservative Christian, and after seeing her films, they broke connections with her. Her parents are mortified and phoned me to apologize, and my wife fled the city to avoid further humiliation. She calls and asks for a second chance because Eric was not serious with her. He was using her for creating those movies and making money from them. My wife told that she had stopped making those videos, but I couldn't believe her. I've lost faith in her. I'm glad I discovered the truth about her before having children. I'm glad we didn't have children, and I'm grateful the universe revealed her true face to me in the early years of our marriage. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story. Please give your feedback in the comments box, and please subscribe to my channel. We truly need your help to grow this channel. We value your presence here. You are all wonderful. Thank you.